right, Evan Ginsberg back with another edition of Evan Ginsberg's Legends TV. And just last week we celebrated our first anniversary. We've had world-class artists like Martha Wash and Cody Mundi from Kid Creole and the Coconuts, and many, many other million-selling artists, Carol Douglas, Doctor's Orders. It's been an incredible year, and we're going to continue with just that. And I would like to acknowledge Tom Melee and Tommy Ma and Janine and Vicky and all the crew here at Madhouse TV. And of course, Steve Ludwig. I couldn't do it without him. Steve's off this week. And of course, John Winnell, poet John Winnell. And tell us about that shirt, John.
Oh, God, yeah, it's my friend Mr. Hyde. And I always said that everybody has a little bit of Hyde in them. And of course, Mrs. Jekyll felt the same way.
There you go. And the artist is legendary. Tell us about the artist.
I remember seeing the show, was it Boris Vallejo?
Yeah.
And we were at a convention, this comic convention, and he hadn't even come in yet, but the shirts were on the wall. And I just flipped out. I had to have the shirt. In retrospect, I probably should have bought the book where there's a variety of monsters that he did where he would have signed it, but we all have great hindsight.
And he was on many covers of famous monsters, Forrest J. Ackerman.
Yeah, he said that because when I spoke to him, I guess he did many of the, took the images and just colored them in like this, because this is Lon Chaney, and of course the film is in black and white, so it's all his coloration, and it's just striking stuff. Figured it's the mood, that somber summer mood outside. I wanted to bring it in here. I guess it's always in here. So.
Right. And as a poet, do you think all people have that evil side in them, or
the duality? I don't know about evil, but I think that there's something, that people have, whether they're in touch with or not, and hopefully it comes out in a good way.
I had this argument online recently. A guy writes on Facebook that every woman should fear every man because after that killing spree out in California, I said, that's ridiculous. I guess
Mahatma Gandhi, you got to watch out, folks.
That's right.
For the Mahatma.
That's right, Martin Luther King.
That's right, all these peace-loving guys. Yeah, that's a little strange, but hey.
So you don't believe we all have that potential for evil? I certainly don't.
No, I don't think so. I think that...
I could be sarcastic, but I'm not going to kill anybody.
Of course not. You have control. I mean, the psyche is so complex that evil, no. People have self-control. I mean, you can do things that maybe are destructive to yourself, but to do evil in the world, no. Most people do not go out and...
That's right. People lead lives of quiet desperation.
That's right.
In general.
Somebody famous said, was it Auden or they so coined that, one of those great guys.
And later we're going to hear your poetry, and later we're going to meet Curly Karen, tremendous vocalist, and Damion Waters accompanying her, and also the wrestler Rage, speaking of anger. He's very colorful.
That should be, and we can all throw each other around, right?
And wrestling journalist Mike Brown.
And he can write about it, right?
That's right, that's right. So it's going to be quite a show as always. And we want to remind everybody to watch each and every week. We are archived 24/7. And our new website is legendstvnyc.com. And of course, you can see us here on madhousetv.com as well. And also Thursday mornings on Manhattan Neighborhood Network. So at 8:30 a.m. every Thursday. So that should about do it for our little intro. And when we come back, we're going to meet Curly Karen and Damion Waters. So don't you dare go anywhere, folks. We will be right back with more of Legends TV.
My name is Dr. Robert Brevard. I'm here for Multi-Medicine in Westbury, New York. We're located at 1065 Old Country Road, Suite 214. Been here for about 15 years. The practice has medical doctors, physical therapists, chiropractors, acupuncturists. We also do pain management, and we have orthopedists on staff. Here at Advanced Multi-Medicine Rehabilitation, we've got physical therapists on staff who treat an array of conditions, from neck pain to back pain, shoulder pain. We treat carpal tunnel. We treat a lot of car accident patients, slip and falls. We treat patients with knee injuries, with ankle injuries. We have state-of-the-art equipment. We've been here for over 15 years. Vast array of diagnostic testing, from x-rays to EMGs. What is an EMG? It's a diagnostic test that allows a doctor to determine where the pinched nerve is. Cora is a physical therapist at Advanced Multi-Medicine and Rehabilitation. She's working on Stephanie, who was involved recently in an automobile accident. Stephanie has tight thoracic and cervical musculature, and Cora is doing some myofascial release work and some therapeutic stretching, doing it to help her with her pain. Vicky is also a patient here at Advanced Multi-Medicine and Rehabilitation. Vicky is now working her leg muscles, specifically her quadricep muscles, trying to strengthen them after an injury she sustained. If you find yourself in need of any type of physical therapy, please don't hesitate to call Advanced Multi-Medicine and Rehabilitation, located in Westbury, New York, in Suite 214. Phone number is 516-334-7000, or find us on our website at advancedmultimedicine.com.
I am Tom Mealy for the Harrison Law Group, and I have been telling you for years that getting involved in an automobile accident is no joke. This is what we do. We're not new at this game. If you've been involved in an accident of any kind and you go to a law firm that says you have no case, it's simple. It's because they can't do it and they don't get it. You need to call us directly at 1-800-INJURY-LAW.
And I was just talking during the commercial break with our director, Tommy Ma, about the legendary Wilson Pickett. We both love R&B, and the late, great Wilson Pickett, what a colorful character. And speaking of colorful and someone who sings with soul, we have Curly Karen. How are you today?
Very good. Thank you for having me. How are you?
Absolutely. Great, great. And Damion Waters.
Hello. How are you?
And very good. And out of all the people in the world to accompany you, why Damion?
Damion and I have played together for 4 or 5 years now, wrote a song together. He was in my band for a while, so he is a very substantial part of the way my music's been growing over the past 5 years or so.
And Damion, before we talk to Karen about her music, tell us a little about yourself.
Well, I live in the city. We're actually part of a musical collective in the East Village known as Tuesday People.
Yep.
And that's kind of how we met. So
And tell us about that, because I always find it fascinating. I've watched every episode of Unsung, and inevitably musicians are killing each other, so
Right.
literally and figuratively. So how does a collective work?
like-minded musicians trying to have a good time, express themselves, getting together once a week to let loose. It's
Yeah.
very New York. It's very East Village.
Like a loft thing, like they used to do in Chelsea, the jazz stuff.
We actually do it at this apartment on St. Mark's that a friend of ours actually was written about in the New York Times. He
Yep.
was called the Prince of St. Mark's. And it's this really small apartment that he's restructured to make best use of small space. And he's a master sculptor. His name is Mike Fontana. And we kind of jam
Yeah.
there every week,
Wow.
you know,
For
a
the
couple
last
times a week for the last 6 years or 5-6 years.
5-6 years we've been
Yeah.
doing it.
And do you find that the musicians are supportive of each other's gigs and projects, or is it just like a get-together?
Yeah, for the most part, everybody is.
For
And
the most
sometimes
part.
it's
There's an asterisk there.
So, I mean, for the most part, because we have so many musicians coming in from really all over the world.
Well,
People
musicians-
stop in. And,
musicians do have egos, which is always fun. But a lot of bands and groups have sprung out of this. So it's really
Definitely.
been like a hotbed for.
And pretty much everyone that's played in my band has come from jam.
Right.
Because I know around the corner from that is University of the Streets. I don't know if that's still around.
I don't know.
On 7th Street. That's more, I guess, of a jazz thing.
Yeah, and this is really private. I mean, it's totally, you have to kind of know the code to buzz
Right.
up.
Right,
and
right, right.
You can only come if you're invited.
It's like
and
prohibition.
It's like the last
Yeah.
vestige of.
Yeah.
Speakeasy, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Speak quietly, right?
That's
Right.
awesome.
Except
That's
for we're a
awesome.
little loud, but.
I like to hear that artists support each other because many times it's all about them. It's look at me, applaud me, it's about me. And you get kind of, I had this conversation with John driving here this morning. You know, you get a little turned off to that sometimes.
Yeah.
I believe in mutual support, and it's tough out there. And I think if, I'll give you an example. The other night I saw Roger Ortega, who's a tremendous singer, with Lawrence Worrell, who is Bernie Worrell's nephew, Bernie Worrell from P-Funk. He did the keyboards on Atomic
Talking Heads,
Dog.
right,
He was
all
with
that.
Talking Heads. So these two indie artists, you know, promoted together, no egos, and they totally sold out the cutting room. There were over 200 people in there on a weeknight, and I was very impressed. I knew the music was going to be great, but I'm like, wow, they used social media, they worked together. At the end, they sang together. It wasn't I'm the star, you're the opener. It was billed as two artists together, and it worked. It worked.
What's fun that we do
Yeah.
is we all hop on different instruments too. Like lately, I've been a little obsessed with playing the drums, so I've been kind of the drummer at jam,
Right,
and
right.
you know, we'll all hop around and switch, and vocals and guitar and drums, and it really, for me, I feel, has completely grown my music and me as a performer. Just being free enough to like exist in that space without being judged and knowing that someone's going to support
Well,
you.
she's very modest, but really, she was on Broadway as a child, so her background in music is deep.
It's
so.
a little more structured as well, and I think like the kind of jam like we're talking about in that collective with like-minded people has just expanded my musicality and expanded my whatever talent I have. So
I think it's tremendous. And tell us a little about being a kid on Broadway. That must be interesting.
you know, it kind of I remember most of it in kind of a sensory way, where
Right,
I
right,
remember
right.
the smell of the theater, and I remember the ghost light on stage, and I remember feeling that it was magical. I think I was talking to somebody about my parents have both passed, and they were instrumental in getting me into the city every day and taking me to the show every night and driving me in and out. And I kind of get sad because I feel like right now I'm having a lot of success with my music, and I wish they could be here to join in my success.
Of course.
But really, they joined in my biggest success. Like, they were meeting Burt Reynolds, and I was at Eartha Kitt's 50th birthday party at
Wow.
Studio 54.
There you go.
You know, and they were there with me. So if they really kind of took the best of my success in that way. But it was fun. It was a job. You know, I did 8 shows a week, and I went to school, regular school, skipped on Wednesdays for a matinee, and
Yeah.
and it was really a family. The Annie that I was a part of, I also later did a documentary about all the orphans, but the Annie that I was a part of was very, very much a family. We roller skated around 52nd Street and 8th Avenue, and down the block were whorehouses, and we just kind of all
the good old
supported.
days.
It was the good old days up in
right.
Hell's Kitchen. It was
That's
the
right.
best. Yeah, so.
So how old were you the first time you stepped on a Broadway stage?
I was 8.
Wow. So what was
Yeah.
it like the first time? It must have been scary, I would think.
I loved it. I was kind of a gymnast and a dancer, so in that way I'd been on stage a lot before, but I never sang. So it was a bit overwhelming, I guess, but just kind of easily went right into it. It was a fun experience. Everybody was so supportive. The dance captains and, you know, the fellow orphans and all of our parents kind of hung out with each other. My father worked as a bartender in the theater just to pass the
Wow.
time, and we were just really a big family. Like, our birthdays were spent in the basement of the theater where everyone would cook, and we would all hang out on a Sunday night after the show was over. So,
awesome,
a lot of
awesome.
fun. A lot of fun.
And what do you think of the state of Broadway today? I find that it's so expensive, it's become like a Christmas present or a birthday present. I think it's almost eliminated the middle class. It's tough, right?
It has. There's a lot of off-Broadway stuff that's
Of
so
course,
accessible.
of course.
So yeah, the major Broadway houses are ridiculously expensive, and I feel like we kind of regurgitate, you know, different versions of shows just because they're commercial enough to sell to Broadway. But check out the off-Broadway and the off-Broadway and the equity
Absolutely.
showcases. I mean, that's what I've been participating in a lot of. I worked for full-time for a long time, and I'm just kind of re-emerging as an artist and doing it full-time and approaching it. And I'm trying to really do some indie work and kind of get into the environment of the city. There's so much going on theater-wise in the city.
Did you ever think of doing a one-woman show where you're the the focus and.
I have, and I kind of, when you really first got to know me, I was playing by myself in the C note and back in the days
Right,
in
right.
the East Village. I really enjoy more collaborating with people. That's why I drag all these guys into the band with me. They're like, no, Damien's one person to say. I think it was like 2 years ago where I was working full time and the band didn't kind of know where it was going. And he goes, what if like in 6 months you get picked up by a record label? I'm like, I'll never get, are you crazy? 6 months later I got a distribution deal for my album that I am promoting today, Only the Ocean.
Tell us about that.
I recorded it about 10 years ago now in Los Angeles, and it was my first kind of foray into recording. I just was playing enough that I was jamming with a friend down in Laguna Beach, California, and they asked me to play the Sawdust Art Festival with my friend Samantha Korshin, and we kind of played, and I said, well, we should have something to sell. My parents were
Sure,
hustlers, and like they
sure.
were born in the Depression. Yeah, we should sell something, or let's record a CD, and I recorded it with my friend Sam and my friend Brad Gordon out in Hollywood, and had a couple of cool people sit in, and about a year or so ago, someone heard it, a label in Miami, a distribution company called Essential Media Group, and they wanted to distribute it, so it kind of got picked up. Relevant 10 years later, which I think is pretty awesome.
That's
I
gr-
feel,
that's
I
great,
feel really
that's
good about
great.
it. Yeah, that's it right there. Thanks.
And Damien, tell us about some of your career highlights.
Well, I've been playing music since I was a kid. It's in my blood, and I've been in bands. I've toured with bands and recorded and done the singer-songwriter thing. I've done the cover band thing, tried to be a professional musician. Actually, in the city, I'm actually an art director at an advertising agency.
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of what I'm doing. And music is really just a labor of love for me. It's a passion, and I play as much as I can. But just when I have friends that are doing something that they're passionate about, and I can help them out, and that's really what I do it for.
And doing a 10 a.m. sound check on a Saturday is labor. so
Exactly.
we
There
appreciate
go.
you being
Yeah,
here.
well,
Yeah,
my
especially
pleasure.
when I picked him up in the East Village at 8:30.
There you go. There you go.
Well, that's about when we get,
Yeah.
And what we're going to do right now is see a video clip of Curly Karen in action. So
Oh, great.
check this out, ladies and
Where
gentlemen.
do we look?
Look, I have this all ready for you. Yeah. We're very professional here at Berkeley. How are you? Schleifer, I'm so sorry. It's Schleifer, of course. If I had a choice, I would say it all. You need this. You need the guys behind you?
I would love to.
Well, you need musically. Schleifer, you're making Nice, very nice. There, how's that?
That's perfect.
So tell me what you're gonna do for us.
Well, I was gonna do an original, but I feel like you guys need to hear a little Janis Joplin.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good idea, Karen Schleifer.
Alrighty then. Hi, I'm Curly Karen. Busted flat, Baton Rouge, waiting for a train. I'm feeling near as faded as my jeans. Bobby thumbed a diesel down just before it rained. Rode us all the way to New Orleans. I pulled my harpoon out of my dirty red bandana. I was playing soft while Bobby sang the blues. And windshield wipers snapping time, I was holding Bobby's hand in mine. We sang every song that driver knew. Freedom is just another word for nothing left to lose. Nothing, don't mean nothing, honey, if it ain't free. Yeah. Oh, my feeling good was easy though when he sang the blues. You know, feeling good was good enough for me. Ooh, good enough for me, I'm not Bobby. From the Kentucky coal mine to the California sun, yeah, Bobby shared the secrets of my soul. Through all
right, and we are back, ladies and gentlemen, and that was Curly Karen live, and a beautiful CD that we're talking about today. Tell us a little about that, Karen.
Only the Ocean. I recorded, like I said, 10 years ago with my friend Samantha Korshin and Brad Gordon. It's really my first writings. It's everything that I kind of was first. I was doing some theater out in LA called Theater Fofo, and my musical director at the time was like, girl, you need to just put a guitar in your hands and start playing. Because I can't sit around and wait for somebody to accompany me. As soon as I did, the songs started coming out of me. And this is literally the first kind of 8 songs that I wrote.
Awesome. And later we're going to hear you live with Damion.
Yes.
And at the end of the show, that's going to be hot. And John's going to
Excellent.
do a set of poetry later in the show. Awesome. And John, tell us about your chapbook.
Yeah, it's called, I took the cue from Walt Whitman. It's called Poems for Everyday People, meaning simple for everybody. And you can, if you're interested, it's JohnWinell at yahoo.com, or just Facebook me, JohnWinell, and we can get that out to you if you like it. I mean, it's been out for, I guess, a couple of years, and I'm always adding new things, always expanding, so.
There you go.
And this is available all over iTunes, Amazon.
Give out all your social media,
It's
websites.
www.curlyKaren.com, CurlyKaren, and on there are all the links for everything. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Reverb Nation, Spotify, it's all over the place, but curlykaren.com.
And Damion?
DamionWaters.com, personal portfolio. Anybody needs web services or some graphic design work.
He's an amazing designer.
The
Amazing.
appropriately named DamionWaters.com.
Yes.
There you go. And I must ask this because of the
Yes.
the look. The look reminds me of Billie Holiday. Tell us about
Oh.
your musical influences. One final question,
Oh,
both of
gosh. Everyone from Etta James to
you. I saw it alive.
Bette Midler. I saw Etta actually
she
the
was
day
awesome.
that Princess Diana died at the House of Blues in L.A. It was
Wow.
like an extraordinary day, obviously, in extraordinary circumstances. Pat Benatar, obviously Janis. My parents were born in the Depression era. My brothers were born in the late 50s, early 60s. So I have a wide range.
Damien?
I really grew up on 60s and 70s rock and roll. That was sort of my foundation. And then just branched out from there, literally. I have probably the most eclectic taste of music of
Yeah,
any of my friends.
sure.
Lately, I've been really into these West African artists from the late 60s, like William Onyebor and Bela
yeah.
Kuti and those.
I saw
Good old-
Fela live.
Yeah?
Good old Fela
Twice.
Kuti,
Yeah,
Twice,
very cool,
yeah, yeah.
very
Oh,
cool.
yeah.
We saw
So-
her
That's why I
kid,
hang
didn't
out with these guys.
We saw Sion.
He's
remember?
playing this week at the Highline
he's-
Ballroom, I
Oh,
believe.
wow.
Oh, that's always fun. He opens up with the song that got his father into trouble.
Fela's
that
son is
Zombie.
playing with Egypt 80.
Really?
Yeah,
that's
touring.
that's Fela's band. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
second band.
Very cool.
Right on.
So,
Yeah.
any other influences?
Well, I mean, the Beatles,
I heard of
Zeppelin,
them. I heard
the
of them.
Stones.
They're-
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of
All the
Yeah.
ones you've heard of. And then from there, I really got into the 90s indie rock scene. That was also kind of where I came up as a musician. Bands like Built to Spill, Modest Mouse, Flaming Lips, etc. So that's kind of where I am now.
And I was doing things like Jesus Christ Superstar and Funny Girl and,
Wow.
and musicals.
When I was a kid, every year we watched Funny Girl religiously. It came on once a year on TV. Funny Girl, Sound of Music, Wizard of Oz.
you have
That was
to.
back before you had 8 million channels,
Yeah,
you know?
13
Channel
channels.
11
Right,
or
right.
whatever it was. Or,
I'm the greatest star. I can't. I
right.
love it.
That's right. I grew up on James Brown, Al Green, Marvin,
Absolutely.
P-Funk. I love Roger Troutman and
All of it.
Zap.
Mhm. Love
Bobby
Zap.
Womack. I worship Bobby Womack. He's a
Your
genius.
King Crimson's getting back together.
Oh, there you go.
how about good old Burt Bacharach, the great
Burt
song.
Bacharach's a genius.
Dion.
And I love Kid Creole and the Coconuts. Not as well known as a lot of bands, but tremendous. Cody Mundi was on here from Kid Creole. If you want to hear something brilliant, a lot of people missed it. Dr. Bizarre's original Savannah band. Some people say it's the greatest band to ever come out of New York.
Okay.
They
That's-
did Cherche La Femme, but they had like 4 or 5 albums that most did not sell well. The first did, but brilliant. Dr. Bizarre's original Savannah band, trust me. Out of New York,
message me
ironically.
that.
Out of New York.
Yeah. So anyway, so much for our musical influence. John, musical influences, real quick.
Oh, how about Charlie Parker, Billie
I heard of him
Holiday,
too.
Thelonious Monk, and then, of course, Beatles, Stones, Byrds, all the other incarnations.
Eagles.
Broadway, of course, Burt Bacharach and George Gershwin, and about saying those together. And, I don't know
I'm
about
Cole
jazz,
Porter.
I'm a jazz buff myself. Sun Ra, Art Ensemble of Chicago, Cecil Taylor. I like
good
the
old
avant-garde
Cecil, yeah,
guys.
good.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
saw Cecil up at Columbia, you know, with I think it was Max was playing with him. I don't remember.
I used to
Max
see
Roach.
I used to see Max Roach do solo drum
Yep,
shows for
that's
50
right.
minutes.
Oh yeah.
And then I used to see Andrew Cyril, who was avant-garde. He played the floor, the wall, and the drums. It was
I
wild.
remember seeing Max and someone that I knew who I'd seen on Avenue C at a place that I played in was actually singing with in front of Max. It was up at the 92nd Street Y. This is God knows how many years ago. The night after that couple. Oh God, the guys. Oh, that famous couple. I can't remember the acting couple who were in Spike Lee's movie, Do the Right Thing. Oh, I can't remember. But they were also in a theater family. It'll come to me.
3
of course.
a.m. it's going to come to
Yeah,
you.
right.
It's going to torture you the rest of the day and night. Anyway, folks, we're going to wrap up this segment, and we're going to go from music to pro wrestling with journalist Mike Brown and wrestler Rage. And later in the show, as I stated earlier, a poetry set from John and live music from Curly Karen and Damion Waters. Thank you so much for talking with us.
you.
Thank
We're
you.
going to enjoy hearing you again later in the show.
Absolutely.
Thank
It's a
you.
pleasure. Thank you.
We will be right back, ladies and gentlemen, with more of Legends TV. Don't you dare go anywhere.
Hi, my name is Dr. Tom Dow. We have a multidiscipline practice in Melville and Ronkonkoma, New York, and we treat patients with many, many different conditions, from newborns through geriatric patients with numerous different techniques. There's a technique and a type of treatment for every class of patient. We have them all here. Here's my son Thomas, also a doctor of chiropractic, working on one of our patients' cervical spine. This patient has had chronic neck pain for many, many, many years, has been to a multitude of different practitioners with little or no response. And with our specialized techniques, she has improved tremendously and continues to improve on a daily basis. We have two practices, one in Melville and one in Ronkonkoma, New York. We are a multidiscipline chiropractic office. What that means is we have chiropractors, massage therapists, acupuncturists, psychologists, all working as a team and a network of outside professionals such as orthopedists and neurologists that we work hand in hand with to help determine what your injuries are and the best way to treat your injuries. I have the great pleasure of having my son in practice with me. We work hand in hand, father and son, to give our patients the best care possible, and a staff which is loving, caring, and you'll never have to wait at all in our office for service. Many times patients come into our office and they have what's called a soft tissue injury. Soft tissue injuries are like scars inside your body. If you've ever been cut on the outside of your body, you get a scar. The same thing happens inside of your body to your muscles and ligaments. So our job is to determine where those are, stretch the muscles, adjust the vertebra back into their correct position, and then refortify the normal structure with exercise. That's what we do best, and I hope someday you'll come see us at one of our two offices. Thank you.
For nearly a decade, Evan Ginsberg's Legends Radio has featured interviews with the greatest names in the arts and sports. Heard worldwide at legendsradio.net, the program has featured these great musical legends: Ray Manzarek of The Doors, Billy Corgan of Smashing Pumpkins, Judy Collins, Roberta Flack, and many more. Stars from movies, TV, and comedy have included Jenny McCarthy, Wayne Brady, 30 Rock's Judah Friedlander, Shelley Berman, Jackie the Joke Man Martling, David Allen Greer, and Paul Mooney. Stars of pro wrestling and MMA include Bruno Sammartino, Rowdy Roddy Piper, Superstar Billy Graham, and Frank Shamrock. Co-hosted by renowned journalist Dr. Mike Lano, Legends Radio is heard Wednesdays 7 p.m. to 9:20 p.m. Eastern Standard. We are archived 24/7 with hundreds of hours of classic interviews. Legends Radio also features the best in indie music, showcasing talent deserving wider exposure.
I'm from Brooklyn, baby. Don't forget the gravy. We are soldiers.
You missed the birth of your mother and father. Don't you dare miss Evan Ginsberg's Legends Radio. And we are back with Legends TV, ladies and gentlemen, and in the weeks ahead, on the 21st of June, Steve Ludwig's going to be at the helm, because yours truly will be at the New England Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame and Fan Fest with Nicole Bass. So I'm going to take a rare Saturday off. And coming the 28th of June, the return of the great Edwin Vasquez Musica. Edwin played on the Cape Man CD with Paul Simon and Mark Anthony, a truly great artist who's been one of the people who have really helped Legends TV grow by leaps and bounds in the past year. So we owe a lot to Edwin Vasquez as well. And we are joined now by my old buddy Mike Brown, who's a wrestling historian. And sitting next to Mike is Rage from the WWO, based out of Queens, New York. And welcome to Legends TV. And Rage, tell us a little about yourself. You remind me very much of the Road Warriors, and very intense look there.
Definitely a group that I looked up to. Road Warriors, Ultimate Warrior, all the face paint.
Yeah. So those were two of your major influences. Who else did you like as a kid? Who else did you enjoy?
As a kid, I started out watching wrestling. I was a huge fan of Jimmy Superfly Snuka.
Oh, yeah.
Great guy. Later on, 80s, I was probably Macho Man Randy Savage. 90s, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Right. And Mike, as a wrestling historian, who are some of the people that you've seen live that you really love and respect?
Well, my very first show was Nassau Coliseum, I want to say 77 maybe. It was a battle royal, and the winner fought Billy Graham at the end of the night.
Gorilla Monsoon. I was there.
I was too.
there. Yeah.
I think I was about 11 or 12. That was my first show, and it just went on.
I beat you by 3 years. My first show was June of 74. Nikolai Volkov and Fred Blassie against Bruno and Strongbow. And the co-feature was the Valiants against Dean Ho and Tony Gurria. And little could I ever imagine years later that Jimmy Valiant would induct me into his Hall of Fame. and Johnny Valiant would be sleeping on my couch, and et cetera, so on. Life is surreal sometimes. Absolutely. As a kid, these guys are 10 feet tall. And Rage, when you're wrestling and little kids come up to you, what does that feel like?
That's pretty much what I live for. I love it. I've always had a draw for the children, which is, I guess, something I was gifted with. They just seem to be very attracted to the whole Rage concept, the revolution, the army.
And tell us what that concept is. You have a really unique look. Tell us.
It's basically, I call it the Rage Revolution. It's basically join me. I'm totally anti-bully. I think a lot of the guys that are in pro wrestling probably were bullied at one point in time in their life.
Interesting.
I'm there to tell them, listen, don't be afraid. Speak up. And if I'm walking down the street and I see you getting bullied, I'm sure as heck going to take care of those bullies.
That's great. That's great. And Mike, outside of wrestling, you work for a very unique organization. Tell us about that.
Sure. I work for an agency called Fountain House. And, before I talk about it, I want to thank you, Evan, for coming by there a couple weeks ago to introduce the movie The Wrestler, and then hang around
It was my honor.
and take some Q&A at the end. It was a great night, and the folks at Fountain House are still talking about that.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
But what we do is we work with mentally ill adults, trying to help them transition back into society. We put a lot of emphasis on work. For example, we have a temporary employment program where our members can go out to various companies throughout the city. We even do one out here in Deer Park. And they work part-time, 12 to 15 hours a week, enough so that it doesn't mess with their benefits. And they're designed to only be about 6 months long. And then we encourage them to go out and get more permanent employment. And it's a place where the mentally ill can go, because one of the things that we deal with a lot, when you see these shootings, the paper automatically describes them as being mentally ill, mentally this, mentally that. And it has a big effect on us, because we don't know if they really are, but they're automatically classified that way. And that hurts the folks that we work with.
So you're trying to get them over the stigma and to be comfortable with themselves.
Absolutely.
John is not only a poet, but he's a licensed psychologist.
Yes, I mean, I've been working with that population and kids for forever. So I mean, I think that's great to have positive places where people can go, and you're providing them the structure and giving them doors to walk through, and support services, on any level, whether it be it anti-bullying, or because things start from somewhere. Sometimes they can't help it, whether it's chemical or just environmental. So
Right.
I think that's great.
And why do you think there are so many massacres and shootings? I mean, they said there's been like 70 since Columbine. I mean, an insane amount.
America's a very, maybe I'll get shot down, political, no pun intended. There's too many guns in America, and I don't think it happens in Europe or places like that where they're not so lax with guns.
I mean, they do have massacres in other countries, but not with the regularity that we're seeing here.
I think it's related to the guns, and the freedom, or the interpretation of the Constitution, which is, we're not at war anymore. We don't. The British are not, knocking on the doors or the threat of them invading. So does everybody need to have? Does Grandma in Florida need to have? An
Uzi.
Packing heat, so.
I also think it's the media, too. I mean, I think they grab a hold of things, too, that make a lot of news and splash it out there. Kind of like if there's a plane crash, before you know it, there's like 5,000 plane crashes on the news that they're talking about, you know what I mean?
Well, violence and accidents and sex, of course, that's what sells newspapers. That's what sex sells and violence sells, unfortunately. So what would you guys do if you had the power to maybe help the mental health system? What would you do?
Well, one of the things that I read in the paper most recently about that guy who stabbed the two kids in the elevator, one of the things that de Blasio had mentioned is that we're relying on the correctional system to help the mentally ill. They end up in jail, not where they belong. They belong getting treatment. And how are they getting out without any follow-up? I mean, this guy was out, a couple of weeks. Yeah. And look what he did. So I think we need better follow-up. They need to get the treatment that they deserve.
And do you think medication is the answer, or do you think we're over-medicating people at this stage?
I think in some cases it's over-medication, and in others I see the difference. If we have a member who hasn't taken his meds for a week, you see it.
Sure.
And then if he's on the right dosage, see, a lot of times our members are going to the doctors and getting their medication tweaked. Right. And that's when they run into the trouble. So I think medication in some instances is excellent. Other instances, I'm not so sure.
And John?
I mean, it's such a big problem in this country. A lot of it is monetary. People seem to look the other way for mentally ill, and certainly people that are incarcerated. So are they properly staffed? Is the money involved to really involve, to get people in, hold people in treatment? Can treatment be mandatory? I mean, what was that homeless woman, Billy Boggs, I think that was her name, who was living on the street? And then, are there the resources? So it's a very, very complicated thing. I think medication, if it's proper and the body chemistry, it all is in sync, is a good thing. Are people taking the medication? It's very, very complicated.
Sure. And Rage, you hear this argument all the time, wrestling and violent movies and pornography, that's what sets people off. I've been watching action movies and wrestling for 40 years. I'm not going to go out and kill anybody. Exactly. So I think that's ridiculous. In fact, I think it's almost an outlet for your aggressions to go and cheer and yell and boo. What's your take on that?
Totally. I mean, I always tell my fans and people that I meet there, the louder you get, the more crazier I'll get.
Right.
It's a release. And I think also it's the education that you get in your house, your home. If your kids are watching TV, I mean, my kids grew up, we let them watch what they wanted to watch. They knew not to go out and, cause havoc because Bart Simpson, set a school on fire or something like that. But,
right.
I think it's a lot to do with how you're taught at home. I mean, if you come out and tell them, listen, this is TV. It's entertainment. That's all it is. Same with the video games and all the rest of that stuff, too. There's a reason why there's an age limit on those games, and it's up to the parents to say, all right, well, can my child handle this? Or,
sure.
That type of thing.
Sure. The number one theme in the history of movies, and I make movies, I was the associate producer on The Wrestler, I've made other films, is revenge, violent revenge, and it's almost cathartic. For example, the one that pops into my head, of course, is Death Wish. Charles Bronson is going out, he's shooting everybody. And I'm not going to go out and shoot anybody because Charles Bronson was doing it. I mean, it's cathartic, and people were cheering in the theaters, and, Dirty Harry, etc., so on. And some people may not like the politics of those movies, but there was a cathartic, and at a great wrestling show, it's the same way. You should go out feeling exhausted, feeling, like spent, and that's what happens at a quality wrestling show, as opposed to numb at some indie shows, as we were saying earlier. But speaking of quality wrestling, tell us about the WWO, August 23rd, returning to the Elks Lodge. You have a big show coming up.
Yes, it's Retribution is the name of the show. It's a great card. There's a lot of great wrestlers on it. I'll be defending the Open Challenge title, which is basically a title anybody can challenge me. Right.
Can John challenge you? He's a
no,
poet.
No, but I just wanted to say, just as an aside, it's so fantastic. I don't know if the camera can see. No, the face of Rage and the T-shirt. It's like it's like art representing life, representing art.
Yeah.
It's very, very exciting. Very surreal.
Yeah, basically when I got this title, I lost a lot of friends because it is an open challenge. It's anybody can challenge me for the belt. So I constantly got my eyes behind my head, I mean, my kids, I think, are planning to jump me when I leave this studio today for the title. But I lost a lot of good friends because they're doing anything they can to try and get on the card to challenge me for the belt. I mean, I could have referees challenge me, promoters challenge me, anybody can actually challenge
I was ring announcing last week for America's Championship Wrestling. Can I challenge you?
Yes, you sure can.
No, I would be intimidated, but I'm joking. but Rage, what we're going to do right now is see a clip of you in action.
Sure.
I'm sure the fans will enjoy this. Rage with the WWO. Check it out, folks.
Every man has a wild beast within him, and you gotta be a beast. That's the only way they will respect you.
We are back, and that was Rage in action, and you're going to see him in action August 23rd at the elegant Elks Lodge in Queens, on Queens Boulevard. It's a great little venue, actually. I'm kidding, but very intimate. And
It is. It's also got a great reputation from ECW.
And speaking of ECW, Jason Knight's going to be there, and
Yes.
he's tremendous. And he had quite the battle with Justin Credible on the last show. And
Yes.
so you guys are bringing in some world-class athletes as well as great indie talent.
Pitbull #1 is also going to be on that card.
And Pitbull #1's going to be on this show.
Yes.
On June 28 with Chaz Kangas, who's a great rapper, and Edwin Vasquez Musica. So that's going to be an interesting show as well. This is an eclectic mix. We go from music to wrestling to poetry back to music. So we kind of do it all. But so where do you see yourself a few years down the road? Where would you like to take the Rage experience?
As far as it'll go. I mean, I'm on a roller coaster. I'm jetting out. You know, even if I could run off the tracks and just keep going, that's basically where I want to go. I'll take it as far as it goes.
And we all know that Mike will tell you as well, the indie wrestling scene is tough. There's a lot of politics, backbiting. Mike, what would you suggest to Rage, having been around all these years, to get to that next level?
Oh, we talked a lot in the back, and I'm, really impressed that he's done so much in such a short period of time. And stick with it and just see where it goes. I mean, you talked about having your goals realistic. That's the way to do it. Just write it. Definitely.
And don't be shy to promote. I mean, a lot of the indie it's bizarre. An indie wrestler will promote himself, and then the other indie wrestlers get jealous,
Yes.
and they go, "Oh, he's hyping himself,"
Yes.
and all of this. Well, isn't the point to get your name out there,
agree with
get
you
your
totally.
work out there? I mean, I have indie wrestlers who go, "Oh, I don't get up that early in the morning." It's like, well, we're not begging you, then stay home.
Well, it's funny, the older guys that have been in the business told me the same thing. They said, listen, get out there and promote yourself.
Of course.
Just push it all you can.
Of course.
So.
You have a unique look. You're in shape. A lot of indie wrestlers aren't even in shape. I mean, I don't get it. It's like, this is your profession. I go to shows. I'm 6'2", 210. I'm like, I look more like a wrestler than this guy. He looks like a kid. He's got sneakers. He doesn't have gear. I'm like, it's kind of sad in a sense. Either if you're going to do something, you go all the way, right?
100%.
And you're doing it. You're doing it. So much respect, and we're going to get more of the WWO wrestlers on the show, and we had the Intruder on a few weeks back, and very colorful character as well. So tell us about the August 23rd card. What's going to be on it?
We got Jason Knight against Pitbull #1.
Oh, that's hot. That's an ECW match. There you go.
Hawaiian Allen against who you were just mentioning.
Intruder.
Okay.
There's two Intruders.
Yes. Trying to think who else is on the card. Oh, there's a Battle Royal because there's a vacant heavyweight championship right now, which I'm also wrestling in that night.
Okay.
So we'll find out who the heavyweight champion will be. The last two guys in the Battle Royal will face each other, and there will be a new crowning.
And I'm going to give another promoting tip to anybody that's listening. Mike will tell you, back in the day, you would have battle royales once a year, and it would be a big deal. Now they throw it like haphazardly on every show, and tell the promoter once a year and make a big deal out of it, where it means something. Right, Mike?
That's right. It used to be, it still is my favorite match to watch, but it just happens all the time now. So the thrill is gone, so to speak.
Yeah, less is more.
Yeah.
So we, like you said, Gorilla Monsoon won this battle royale, and he wrestles Billy Graham that night. This was 1977. We're still talking about it.
That's right.
I couldn't tell you about the last battle royale on Raw or SmackDown or Impact that happened 3 weeks ago.
It's true.
Seriously, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Absolutely. So, Rage, please give out any social media, any contact information.
Just one. I train at FTW School, which is a great school to learn pro wrestling. You can find them at fighttheworldwrestling.com. That's about it. I'm on Facebook, Rage Army.
All right. And Mike, tell the viewers how to get in touch with Fountain House if they need.
Okay, we're always looking for help in many different capacities, and the website is.
When you say help, what
it could
exactly?
be, we have volunteers.
Oh, okay.
We take charitable donations. I think if you go to the website, fountainhouse.org, you'll see different ways that someone can help Fountain House or become part of Fountain House as well.
Okay. And one last question before we go to commercial break. Off the top of your head, what was the greatest matches you ever saw or went to?
Ridgewood Groves Arena.
I used to go there.
1983, and it was Jimmy Superfly Snuka against Ray the Crippler Stevens.
Wow. I want you to know I've done radio since 1991, and many of the old school guys that I interview, and Michael tell you, they say that Ray Stevens was the greatest worker of all time. A lot of them say that.
Wow.
I mean, in '83, he was already past his prime. He wasn't a kid. But if you saw him in the '70s when he was with Pat Patterson, and even when he was wrestling Pedro here, you know, he was untouchable. And this is an interesting thing. Guys back then, like Dick Murdoch and Adrian Adonis and Ray Stevens, as we mentioned, they would have the little beer belly, and it didn't matter. You didn't have to have a six-pack of abs and look like a male model or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was a different era, right, Mike?
Absolutely. For me, back in the early 80s, when the WWE was coming to the Garden every month, I remember about 4 or 5 months in a row, Patterson fighting Backlund for the title.
Yeah, I saw like 3 of those. The last one was in the cage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It always wound up getting to that.
Yeah, well, it meant
the
something.
cage was
That
the
meant
big-
something
yeah.
too. Now it doesn't
Yeah.
mean anything anymore. Yeah.
No.
But Pat Patterson in his prime, and he was probably 40 at the time. He wasn't a kid. He was so tremendous. I mean, Patterson was great. That match he had with Slaughter, the street fight, that's as good as anything you'll ever see.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Pat Patterson was one of my all-time favorites. And I was actually saddened when they would have him and Jerry Briscoe years later, and they make a buffoon out of him, because the younger viewers don't know how great he was.
They know him as the Stooges.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, so who are your all-time favorites, Mike?
Oh, from when I was a kid, Billy Graham was my first favorite. I'm still a Hulkamaniac. Dusty Rhodes.
It's interesting because neither of them were great wrestlers, but Billy Graham was also my childhood favorite. The guy had so much charisma, it was like off the charts.
Yeah.
At the Garden, when he wrestled Bruno, the building would vibrate, right?
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, it was unbelievable.
You said Lanny fought Hulk Hogan. Right?
Yeah, we had Lanny Poffo on the show here. He wrestled Hulk Hogan in front of millions on NBC, primetime TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lanny's a great guy.
The genius.
Yeah, and he is. This guy will rattle off all the presidents. Right? He remembers epic poems. He has like an encyclopedic memory. He's regularly contributed to this show. He sends in videos sometimes. He's a buddy of mine. He lived with me for a week last year because we had like 6 bookings in like a week. The guy's a blast. He's awesome.
Wow.
Awesome, yeah. And what can I say? So let me rattle off my all-time favorites real quick. Bruno, of course. Superstar Billy Graham. The greatest tag team of all time, I don't care what anybody says, Midnight Express with Cornette. How great were those guys?
With Cornette, yeah.
Yeah, the Valiant Brothers, who were not great wrestlers, but were a great act, like Billy Graham, like Hogan. Hogan was never a great wrestler, but he had the charisma. See, wrestling is like apples and oranges. What Daniel Bryan does is incredible. What Abdullah the Butcher does is incredible. He stabs you in the head, and it's like apples and oranges, right? It's like
right.
There's something for everybody, and I love pro wrestling. I always will, and it's like, look, there's garbage movies, there's great movies. There's garbage wrestling, there's great wrestling, and I give you guys credit for putting out quality, family-oriented wrestling. And the Elks Lodge, August 23rd, Queens Boulevard. And I think everybody and their mother knows where the Elks Lodge is. I don't have the address memorized, but it's an institution. And so what's the website for WWO one more time?
For WWO, it's WWO.com.
That's convenient. There you go. You always have like these ridiculous
World Wrestling.
URLs that nobody can remember. WWO.com.
Organization.
Easy. There you go. There
And
you
the
go.
Elks, like, you can't miss it, that giant elk in the front, right?
Yeah. You know it's the Elks Lodge when you see the giant elk in the front. It's a hint. It's a clue. Anyway, folks, it's been great having on Mike Brown and Rage. And when we come back, we're going to shift to poetry and live music. John Winnell in just a moment. Don't you dare go anywhere.
Being a fireman is more than just putting out blazes and giving kittens CPR. Sometimes my duty demands I fan the flames, like when a call comes in from a lady who needs immediate assistance.
Maybe she needs help with a computer thing. Maybe she wants to go antique. Could be as simple as understanding that walking in heels it's hard. Ou aussi simple que l'été dernier à Paris. C'est sympa. Maybe it's ladies' night in, and she wants a simple, delicious recipe for margaritas with a twist. First, a can of limeade. Now hold on to this. You'll be using it. Side note, kittens make everything better. Next, add water. Now, a bottle of light beer. No, shh. Trust me, I'm a professional. And last, and most important, Sauza Blue tequila. Now, mix it up. Ole. Yes, that's what I'm trained for. Whether it's to help her choose leggings or pants, telling her leggings are pants, or discussing leggings and jeggings versus pant pegging at her next ladies' night in, I'll come to the rescue. Don't call me a hero. Just call me. Let me know what time.
Hi, my name is Dr. Tom Dow. We have a multidiscipline practice in Melville and Ronkonkoma, New York, and we treat patients with many, many different conditions, from newborns through geriatric patients with numerous different techniques. There's a technique and a type of treatment for every class of patient. We have them all here. Here's my son Thomas, also a doctor of chiropractic, working on one of our patients' cervical spine. This patient has had chronic neck pain for many, many, many years, has been to a multitude of different practitioners with little or no response. And with our specialized techniques, she has improved tremendously and continues to improve on a daily basis. We have two practices, one in Melville and one in Ronkonkoma, New York. We are a multidiscipline chiropractic office. What that means is we have chiropractors, massage therapists, acupuncturists, psychologists, all working as a team and a network of outside professionals such as orthopedists and neurologists that we work hand in hand with to help determine what your injuries are and the best way to treat your injuries. I have the great pleasure of having my son in practice with me. We work hand in hand, father and son, to give our patients the best care possible and a staff which is loving, caring, and you'll never have to wait at all in our office for service. Many times patients come into our office and they have what's called a soft tissue injury. Soft tissue injuries are like scars inside your body. If you've ever been cut on the outside of your body, you get a scar. The same thing happens inside of your body to your muscles and ligaments. So our job is to determine where those are, stretch the muscles, adjust the vertebra back into their correct position, and then refortify the normal structure with exercise. That's what we do best, and I hope someday you'll come see us at one of our 2 offices. Thank you.
Okay, this is a set of some new, and I think I'll read one from the book as well. This first one goes like this, has no title. Time is liquid. All that is returns as waves dancing along petals of sand. What was lost is retained in the cool crevices on a blade of moonlight. I write words to banish loneliness as it creeps behind a pillar like a spider seeking shelter, only to spin cool silk and evade capture, stealing dreams from which to feed in the dark hours before the collapsing dust of daybreak. Thanks. It's called, What Is It Makes a Man? Naked, white, creviced limbs, shadows, an avenue of skin. In the cold hours before dawn, a hand that holds the blade scrapes away yesterday's barnacles. Whistles and chirps from a caravan of feathers arouse in a coverlet of green silence, weep in the wind to announce the birth of light. What beholds us within this marvelous spectacle? The worlds of giants plummet in a whirlpool, while the radio hums stories of tragedy and little concern. I pour water into a heated urn that spills aromas throughout the apartment. Threading arms and legs into cloth, I somehow greet another journey within the wild terrestrial terrains that eventually lead me back to the naked shadows across an avenue of skin. Thanks. And being that I plugged the book, I'll read this one. It has no title. Winter's tale dances in the snow. The bearded wind curls sleep into the city. Birds hover gently, making no sound. Their songs are all but erased from the sky. I wander the streets alone. I remember your songs, sweet, pungent, filling me with ecstasy that summer when the pale moon hovered above the sea and the fields were alive with mystery. I wonder if the neighbors are still fighting, if you ever found that locket, or if your uncle's house ever got toppled by termites. And I'll read these last couple. Being that it was my birthday a couple of weeks ago, so I wrote this one called Reborn on My Birthday. And thanks to all of you out there. And thanks to Madhouse, of course, and Evan and everybody else. Offers of peace with no alleluias. Another sun-splashed afternoon, egg yolk yellow, oozing runny. The waitress otherwise ignores as she rotates her hips and coyly surveys the restaurant. My mother seems awake, but still sleeping, bones clearly visible through a thin layer of skin. She no longer recognizes dates, which includes my entering into the world those 53 odd years ago. I'm still surfing on Jing Jing's words, movie star-eyed, struck over Paul Muni and George Raft, twirling that endless quarter, grinning knowingly into the camera. Lonely filled crowd on the E-local. Somehow a seat opens and I continue to read Poe's essays on rhythm, rhyme, and the conveyance of the soul. The raven twinkles its eyes in the reflected shadows while I plummet within the waterfalls of the city. Shapes that convey structures changing and unchanging depending on the turn of a hinge. I'm lost in the illusion of time. I crawl through darkened structure where white balloons suggest sperm and manage to fertilize and enter a plastic womb, silent as yesterday's worries. I'm thrust headfirst into the light of the very same day that began with the offers of peace, but one more Alleluia. Thank you. And I'll end with this, then we'll bring up Curly Karen and Damion Waters. This is called Did I See You in the Window? Was that you walking within honeyed rays of light, leaving or arriving, the scent of vanilla in your soft black hair, turquoise stones in your ears, silkily moving a red overcoat, revealing hot skin that burned the edges of my fingertips? I watched your face gleaming in the darkened plexiglass, hours before the rising of the stars, each contour blemish, an embattled field from behind which you sank within the belly of a dragonfly. I sought your name in the frozen leaves of winter, in the petals of snowflakes brushing against my closed eyelids, my mind a prison from which we drank each other's illusions, dancing within the cleft palate of stone. Was it you standing on the corner, suitcases in hand, waiting for a cab to return you to the rain-soaked memories of twilight? Thank you.
For nearly a decade, Evan Ginsberg's Legends Radio has featured interviews with the greatest names in the arts and sports. Heard worldwide at legendsradio.net, the program has featured these great musical legends: Ray Manzarek of The Doors, Billy Corgan of Smashing Pumpkins, Judy Collins, Roberta Flack, and many more. Stars from movies, TV, and comedy have included Jenny McCarthy, Wayne Brady, 30 Rock's Judah Friedlander, Shelley Berman, Jackie the Joke Man Martling, David Allen Greer, and Paul Mooney. Stars of pro wrestling and MMA include Bruno Sammartino, Rowdy Roddy Piper, Superstar Billy Graham, and Frank Shamrock. Co-hosted by renowned journalist Dr. Mike Lano, Legends Radio is heard Wednesdays 7 p.m. to 9:20 p.m. Eastern Standard. We are archived 24/7 with hundreds of hours of classic interviews. Legends Radio also features the best in indie music, showcasing talent deserving wider exposure.
I'm from Brooklyn, baby. Don't forget the gravy. We are soldiers.
You missed the birth of your mother and father. Don't you dare miss Evan Ginsberg's Legends Radio.
This song's called Ghosts Come at Night. Every dream, things I couldn't quite conceive have come to be. In a way I can't believe. You see, till now, I've seen the world around me grow. And although I wished you'd come, I didn't ever really know I'll be warmth around your lonely nights. I'll be the ease within your soul. I'll be the one that never goes away. Never did I guess how you could make my life complete. I'll be warmth around your lonely nights. I'll be the ease within your soul. I will be the one that never goes away. I'll be there when the ghosts come at night. And I promise I'll make it alright, my baby. Ooh, so far gone are the days of endless gray in a city, state, and place I surely could not stay. And this time it's so, so bittersweet. Never did I guess how you could make my life complete. I'll be the warmth around your lonely nights. I'll be the ease within your soul. I will be the one that never goes away. I'll be there when the ghosts come at night. And I promise I'll make it alright, my baby. Don't you think, as those seconds fly around, how much the love we've lost remains somehow in the love we found. And I wait until the weeks turned into years to make certain only the joy will be cradled in your tears. I'll be the warmth around your lonely nights. I'll be the ease within your soul. I will be the one that never goes away. I'll be there when the ghosts come at night. And I promise I'll make it alright, my baby. That's from the album Only the Ocean Ghosts Come at Night. This next song is a new song called My Boyfriend's Name is Brooklyn. I wake every day to the sound of this funky city of mine. Ooh, where the living is hard, but ooh, if you get it right, it can make you feel so fine. I sleep every night, no sound of silence in my head. Ooh, waiting for tomorrow to see if you'll do what you said. Ooh, I may not know for sure, but I do believe this fact. My boyfriend's name is Brooklyn, and he's always got my back. Ooh, see, I'm all grown up now. I got a place of my own. Oh, I done left my city for a while. If you called, I came right back home. And baby, I got most everything checked off my bucket list. So, come on, then you show up again telling me your love is something I miss. Oh, yeah. Oh, I may not know for sure, but I do believe this fact that my boyfriend's name is Brooklyn and he's got my back. Ooh. Now I love this little city of mine. And I'm living in the middle and it don't feel so fine. And I dream that there will be a day when you show up again. Never take your love away. Oh, I may not know for sure, but I do believe this fact that my boyfriend's name is Brooklyn and he's always got my back. My boyfriend's name is Brooklyn and he's always got my back. Thank you. Thanks, Evan. Such a pleasure. Little Amy Winehouse. Well, sometimes I go out by myself and I look across the water. Ooh, and I think of all the things what you do. In my head I paint a picture. Since I come home, well, my body's been a mess. I miss your ginger hair and the way you like to dress. Won't you come on over and stop making a fool out of me? Why don't you come on over, Valerie? Valerie. Valerie, did you have to go to jail? Put your house on up for sale? Did you get a good lawyer? Hope you didn't catch a tan. Hope you find the right man who'll fix it for you. And are you shopping anywhere? Change the color of your hair. Are you busy? And did you have to pay that fine that you were dodging all the time? Are you still dizzy? Since I come home, well, my body's been a mess. Miss your ginger hair and the way you like to dress. Won't you come on over and stop making a fool out of me? Why don't you come on over, Valerie? Valerie. Mr. Damion Waters on guitar, everybody. Here we go. Valerie, why don't you come on over, Valerie? Kind. This next song is a song that Damion and I wrote together. It's called Stay. Well, hey there, my sweet lover. It's been some time since you've been sniffing around. There's a few things that you'll discover that you have lost, but honey, I have found. Well, hey there, where you been? Why did you think that I even cared? Well, hey, you know it's true that when you left, mine was the life you spared. I know you never said you'd stay, but when you disappeared that day, you crossed the line and danced on out the door. And I bet my last 2 cents any place you went was worse off than the place you stood before. So stay away, baby, baby, can't you stay away? I'm begging you, please. I'm off my knees, baby, baby, can't you stay away? Well, hey there, I bet you thought that my lips would be wide open waiting, and that my love that you once fought would keep me on my toes anticipating. Well, don't you know I took the blow? I was bitten twice, and now I'm kinda shy. I had to sink down to have my low, so I could feel what it's like to be this high. I know you never said you'd stay, but when you disappeared that day, you crossed the line and danced on out the door. And I bet my last 2 cents any place you went is worse off than the place you stood before. So stay away, baby, baby, can't you stay away? I'm begging you, please. I'm off my knees, baby, baby, can't you stay away? Baby, baby, can't you stay away? Ooh, baby, baby, can't you stay away? Thank you, Evan. Thank you, guys. www.curlykaren.com. CURLYKAREN. Looking for a booking agent, so get in touch.